Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2 of lesson 53. We are going to go through the lesson practice in the middle of the page on page 284 of your textbook. All right, we're going to go through this rather quickly, or at least the first half rather quickly, because it's just talking about decimal operations and what we have to do. But I think most of you are pretty keen on this, or you understand this pretty easily. We're just going to review those decimal operations depending on what we're doing, whether we're subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and how we have to set up the question. All right, so let's look at this practice set. Again, we're going to do A right here. All right, so it says discuss how the rules in the decimal chart apply to each of these problems. So again, what I would like for you to do is look back on page 283 at the bottom of the page. We're going to look at that decimal arithmetic reminders and how we deal with decimals. All right, so let's look at the first question right here. 5 minus 4.2. Well, if we look at our handy dandy little chart on page 283, it'll say that whenever we're adding or subtracting decimals, we're going to line up the decimal places, all right? So I'm going to have 5 minus 4.2, so 4.2. Now, where is the decimal place on that 5? Well, it's actually right there, right? You can't see it, but notice how when I'm adding or subtracting decimals, I actually line up the decimals. See that? I lined up the decimals. All right, and we can put a 0 there if it helps our operations, if it helps you remember that that's actually 5.0, and then we're just going to subtract like normal, right? In this case, we'd have to borrow a 1 from there, make that a 10, and that would be 8. 10 minus 2 is 8, and then we're going to make sure we bring down our decimal place. Don't forget that. That's what most students, and 4 minus 4 equals 0. So our final answer is 0.8. Okay? All right. Let me grab a eraser here. Let's erase all that. All right. So let's go on to this one. 0.4 times 0.2. Okay, so 0.4 times 0.2. Again, I'm going to line up my decimals so it's easy for me to see. Oh, wow, I know that was a little bit of sloppy writing there, but you guys will have to forgive me. All right, so we're going to line up our decimal places so that we can go ahead and, everything's nice and neat. Like I asked you to do in class. So 0.4 times 0.2, all we're going to do is multiply like normal. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 0 is 0. And then we're going to put a 0 as a place value. 0 times 4 is 0. And 0 times 0 is 0. And then we're going to add them up. Oops. We're going to add them up. So we have 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 0 is 0, and we're going to bring down that 0. All right, so we have 008. But how many decimal places do we have? Well, when we started this question, we actually had 1 decimal place and 2 decimal places, right? Okay, and so our decimal is right here, right now, but we're going to have to move it 2 to the left. So 1, 2, and our decimal place would be right there. So our final answer would be 0.08. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. That is the second operation. All right. I'm going to erase everything that we've just done, and we're going to do the next one, which is 0.12 divided by 3. Okay? So if we look at our handy dandy little chart on page 283 at the bottom, it says when we're dividing decimals by a whole, the whole number, which in our case is the 3, would go outside of the little house, right? So we're going to take that 3 and put it outside, and we're going to put the 0.12 in the house, so to speak. All right, now I'm going to caution you, whenever you do questions like this, make sure whenever you're dividing, the first thing that you do is I want you to go ahead and put your decimal place where it goes. So it's going to go right there, right? So go ahead and move it up so that when we get our final answer, the decimal will be in the right spot to start with, all right? So 3 can't go into 0, right? Or 3 goes into 0 0 times. 3 goes in, we can't divide 3 into 1, right? So we're going to say 0, right? Because 3 goes into 1 0 times, right? And we have a 0. And what do we do with that 2? We bring it down. So 3 goes into 12 how many times? 4 times. So 3 times 4 is 12. And then we subtract, we have a 0. So what is our final answer? Because we remembered to go ahead and move our decimal place up right here, our final answer is 0.04. Okay, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, let's go ahead and back up here, and we're going to do the last one. 5 divided by 0.4. Okay, again, I'm going to write it. I'll use a different color. Let's use black this time. So 5 divided by 0.4. All right, now this time we're actually dividing by a decimal number. So if we look at our handy dandy little chart on page 283 at the bottom, when we're dividing by a decimal, okay, so I'll write it over here so we have plenty of room. So we have 0.4 divided into 5. Well, the first thing that we have to do, if we look at our chart on page 283 at the bottom, is we have to move that decimal place to where this is a whole number outside. Right now, we have a decimal number, 0.4, but we want to make this a whole number. How can we make this a whole number? We're going to move that decimal place one to the right, but whatever we do outside of the house, we have to do inside of the house. So we're going to move that decimal place one to the right. Okay, so what we end up with, if we rewrite this question, we have 4 divided into 50.0, right? And again, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I move my decimal place up to the top so that when we do this math, we can have the decimal place in the right spot. All right, so let me rewrite that a little bit neater. I kind of did that a little bit on the crazy side. All right, so what we did is we rewrote this question like this. All right, so we rewrote it, and I'm going to use black again. So this actually becomes, so this actually becomes 4 divided into 50.0, right? Okay, and again, all I did is I took 0.4 divided into 5, and I moved that to make it a whole number. So if I move that one, I have to move that one. Well, what do we do when we have a space? We add a 0, right? So this question becomes 4 into 50. All right, so how many times will 4 go into 50? Well, 4 go into 5 one time. Oh, I want to make sure I put my decimal place so I don't forget. So 4 goes into 5 one time, and then I subtract, and I bring that 0 down. 4 goes into 10 how many times? Well, in this case, it'll go 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, and then I subtract, and I have a 2, running out of room. And what do? Well, 4 can't go into 2, so we have to add a 0 and bring it down, right? So 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5, because 4 times 5 is 20, and I'm going to rewrite this over here. 4 times 5 is 20, and then I subtract, and I get 0. So our final answer is 12.5. Hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly. I know it's not perfect, me trying to write on my phone, but that's what I have available at me right now. Hopefully, if you need to go back and watch this video, go ahead and do it. And I can't wait to see you guys. That is lesson number 53.